We're going to tell you everything you ever wanted to know and perhaps what you didn't even want to know about the upcoming Great American Eclipse. I'm Neil deGrasse Tyson. Chuck Nice.
Hey.
Tweeting at Chuck Nice Comic.
Thank you, sir. Yes.
Love you, man, on Twitter. We've got with us on video call the one, the only, the guy who knows the night sky better than anyone I've ever met, Joe Rayo, an associate at the Hayden Planetarium. And he's a meteorologist, like lifetime television meteorologist.
Yeah.
He's got that meteorologist voice, too.
He does.
Let me hear some of that voice, Joe.
This morning for breakfast, I had some eggs vorticity.
Very good. Okay.
Very nice.
A couple of things. Well, let me back up for a minute. Today, people travel with much greater ease than at any time in the history of eclipses. So, is it possible that this eclipse will be the most watched ever in the history of civilization? Because this is America, and everybody's got a car.
Right.
And if you don't drive, you'll have a plane or whatever. And we all will just gather in this path of totality, this narrow path across the country.
Well, Neil, there are 12 million people who already fortuitously live in the zone of totality, the path of totality.
They get that for free.
Yeah, exactly.
It's 70 miles wide. It's 2,500 miles long, stretching from Oregon to South Carolina. However, there are an estimated 220 million people. That's more than 2/3 of the total population of the United States. 220 million are within a one-day's drive, 500 miles, of the total eclipse path, which leads one to wonder just how many people, either late that Sunday night, the night before, or early that Monday morning, the 21st of August, are going to suddenly decide, hey, let's jump in the car and go and see that total eclipse. So it's going to be interesting to see. There are a lot of, in fact, of the 14 states that are in the totality zone, the DOT, the Department of Traffic, has issued in all of those states warnings as if it were almost like a Category 3 hurricane heading in their direction. They are warning about major traffic jams. Stock up on food because you're going to be in your car for a long time. And even on some of the major interstate roads like I-85 in Georgia or I-5 in Oregon, they're anticipating traffic tie-ups that they have never seen before for all of these people trying to jockey into position to see the total eclipse that day.
So it's possible that 200 million people will see this eclipse. Do you think that's more than any previous eclipse has ever been witnessed?
I'm not sure. I know that in 1991...
That's the Mexico City eclipse.
The 1991 eclipse was related to the one that you saw, Neil, back in the 70s.
In the same Saros, yeah.
Yeah, it was about 7 minutes long. It passed over Mexico City. The entire population of Mexico City was treated to a total eclipse. And I believe at that time, the population of Mexico City in one sitting was like 23 million people.
Wow.
So it may not be necessarily in one sitting for this eclipse, but certainly if a lot of people travel into the totality path, this could very well be indeed the most viewed eclipse, total eclipse in modern history.
No, in all of history.
In all history.
All of it. Yes. And if I remember, the 1991 eclipse also went across Mauna Kea, Hawaii. And the telescope was able to observe it from there. Wasn't that the same eclipse?
Yeah, in fact, it passed over the big island of Hawaii, and Mauna Kea is there on the top of that extinct volcanic cone. The problem was they saw it at Mauna Kea, but all the people who went to Hawaii to see that eclipse, or most of the people who went to Hawaii, didn't. Prior to the eclipse, the meteorologists and climatologists said, oh, there's a 95% chance of clear weather for the eclipse. Because in July, that was the month that the eclipse occurred, they get the trade winds, and when the trade winds blow, usually the weather is clear, but unfortunately on the day of the eclipse, it was the other 5%. There was some sort of disturbance which clouded things over, and people actually got rained on in Hawaii. One person actually walked away after the eclipse and said, the total eclipse was a total bust, at least for Hawaiians. So they were lucky.
These are the conditions under which you shoot your meteorologist.
Yeah. They're going to blame you, Joe. You know that, right? They're all going to blame you.
But you could look at all the weather records. You could see where the best place is based upon long-term records, but it doesn't always work out that way. In fact, Robert Heinlein, who was a very famous science fiction writer, once said, and it's absolutely true, climate is what you expect. but weather is what you get. So you may be in a place where the climatology says it'll be great for viewing the eclipse, but the weather makes up its own mind. If it decides to be cloudy that day and you don't see it, so goes.
Okay.
So before we get to Cosmic Queries, because this is a Cosmic Queries edition,
Yeah.
Joe, spend a minute explaining what we mean by families of eclipses and how there can be a series of eclipses that are all related to one another.
There is a family or cycle that was known to the ancient Chaldeans and Babylonians thousands of years ago, known as the Saros cycle. And what this is that there are 3 different lunar cycles that seem to come together. It's kind of like hitting the jackpot, let's say, on a slot machine. These 3 cycles involve the position of the moon in its orbit relative to the Earth, whether it's closer or farther away, the lunar month, also known as the synodic month. These cycles all come together, and it's called the Saros cycle. Saros means repetition, and eclipses repeat after about 18 years and 10 or 11 and 1/3 days. That 1/3 of a day is important, however, because when the eclipse returns after 18 some odd years, the Earth in that 1/3 of a day has turned 120 degrees in its rotation cycle. And so while the eclipse is going to return, it will not return to the same part of the world that it was seen 18 years previous. This eclipse coming up, for example, the Great American Eclipse, 18 years ago, 18 years and about 11 1/3 days ago, that eclipse occurred over Europe. Well, now 18 years later, 18 years and 10 1/3 days later, the Earth has turned 120 degrees. So now it's not over Europe. This time it's our turn here in the United States or North America to see that eclipse. And in another 18 plus years, the Earth will turn again 1/3 of a way around. So when this eclipse returns in 18 years, that's in the year 2035, it won't be visible over North America. It'll probably be passing over the Pacific Ocean or parts of Asia. But this cycle was known thousands of years ago to the ancient sky watchers, and they were able to make some pretty good predictions just by knowing about the repetition of this eclipse cycle and being able to anticipate when eclipses were going to occur.
So the eclipse that I saw was in July of 1973, because that's how old I am.
Okay.
Add 18 and 2/3 years to that, you get to the 1991 eclipse. Yeah, so that all works out. So Chuck, why don't you give us a question?
All right, why don't we start off? And we'll, of course, we always start with one of our Patreon patron questions because these are the people that support us financially. And
I mean, they bought their way into the question list.
I say it all the time, just like your congressman, we can be bought. So,
Okay. All right.
this is Will Judy. And Will Judy says this.
It's not Judy Well?
Now I'm confused. It could be Judy Well, but it's, or Will Judy.
I don't know anyone with the last name of Judy. That's all I'm saying.
Well, maybe I'm saying it wrong because it's Jeudy. So it's Jeudy?
Judy.
Jeudy.
Okay. All right.
All right. So where are you all going to watch this beautiful event? I will be in South Carolina where there is some great barbecue. Would you mind meeting me there for a beer?
I looked at
we already discussed the fact that you're not going. You're in a secret, super secret
I'm
location.
a super government secret spot.
Right.
Joe, I think South Carolina has like the least positive weather prospects of the entire trek. Is that correct?
Yeah, unfortunately, places that are near to the Atlantic coast are subjected to a number of things. And if you've ever been down in South Carolina in August, you know, number one, it's hazy. Number two, it tends to be rather humid. And in the afternoon hours especially, which is when this eclipse is going to occur, there tends to be showers and thunderstorms that pop up. So it's not the best place to be, but still, even if you see a total eclipse of the sun and it happens to be cloudy, and that has happened to me once out of the 11 times that I've seen total eclipses, it's still a very, very dramatic sight to see. Of course, you don't want to be deprived of a view of the beautiful corona, the outer atmosphere of the sun that appears during totality, but down in South Carolina, hopefully the weather will be clear enough for you to see that. But again, in the summertime, not really the best weather prospects for viewing a.
Okay, so Judy, just make sure the barbecue's good. Okay. Next question.
There you go. All right. This is Eric Varga coming to us from Facebook. I'm aware that the moon is receding from the Earth at a rate of a couple inches per year. How long will it be until the moon's orbit has moved too far to have any more total solar eclipses?
Ooh.
What an incredible question.
So the moon is getting smaller and smaller. That means there will be a day where the moon will never in its orbit be large enough to completely cover the sun.
Right.
They'll still have eclipses.
Right.
They just won't be total.
They just won't be total.
In fact, there's the word for ring is annulus.
Annulus.
That's a word for it's of Latin for a ring.
Right.
And so one of the kinds of eclipses is an annular eclipse.
Annular, right.
Right. And where the moon goes in the center of the sun, you see a ring of sunlight. So, Joe, have you done this calculation? I haven't. I can take a stab at it.
There's a gentleman who lives in Belgium who's world renowned. He's a very famous calculator of celestial mechanics, Jean Meus. And Dr. Meus has done the calculation, and he says that sometime about 1 billion or so years from now, the moon will indeed be too far away to create total eclipses. Actually, he says that there's going to be a few million years where it's going to alternate, where it'll be possible and then not possible. You'll get periods where you'll go through periods where the moon will be too far away, and then it'll just be close enough to cover the sun. But in about 1 billion years or so, according to Dr. Meus, that will be the time when eclipses of the sun, total eclipses of the sun, will just be a thing of the past. So enjoy these spectacles while they last, because in about 1 billion years,
enjoy it while you got it.
By the way, 4 billion years ago, when the moon formed, it was 20 times larger in the sky than it is now.
Wow.
So you would have some serious eclipses no, not an eclipse again.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, I got to finish my homework.
Yeah,
you know?
It's just like, where'd the lights go again? Who's not paying this bill? Right. Who is not paying this bill?
Yeah, so the moon has been spiraling away over the billions of years.
Right.
But the rate at which it spirals away will get slower. So it was happening fast long ago.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that makes me curious about eclipses from the standpoint of other planets. So is there another planet where it seems as though we are uniquely situated for eclipses, total solar eclipses the way they happen here? Is there another planet in our solar system that might have maybe a couple moons that do the same thing, or that align at the same time, or that might give us some different configurations of an eclipse?
Are you interjecting your own question from the Cosmic Query?
I am interjecting.
Okay, that's allowed because you're co-host. That's
okay,
fine.
Good,
that's allowed.
Good.
So an interesting fact about the moon and the sun is the number 300, Joe. The moon is the sun is 300 times farther away than the moon is,
and
the sun is 300. 400. The sun is 400 times farther away from us than the moon is.
Okay.
And the sun is 400 times larger than the moon. So
look at that.
Cancel straight out, and they fit. And they're free. So anybody else have that ratio in the whole solar system, Joe?
I don't think so. And there are so many moons now. I mean, when you and I were growing up, Neil, it was so easy. Jupiter had 12, and Saturn had 10, and
a couple dozen moons in the solar system.
Now Saturn alone has like 67 moons, and Jupiter has like a similar amount. But I think all of those satellites that are going around all the other planets are probably too small to create the same type of effect as what we have here, as seen from the Earth. In fact, you might even call the Earth-Moon system a double planet. There's no moon that is proportionally as large a size as our moon is relative to the Earth, as opposed to all the other planets in the solar system that have satellites to create the spectacle of a total eclipse of the sun.
Now, before 2006, we would have said Pluto has a larger moon relative to itself.
Absolutely.
But since it's not a planet anymore,
right.
It's not in his answer.
Exactly.
Right, because Pluto's moon, Charon, is even bigger compared to Pluto than our moon is compared to us.
Right. So the size-to-distance ratio for Pluto, if it were a planet, take that ice ball, might make it uniquely situated to experience what we experience.
But the sun is really, really small out there.
Right.
So
because it's so far away.
It's so far away.
Right. So either way, it still doesn't really fit.
You get an eclipse, but if the object passing between you and the sun is really, really large,
right.
You're not going to get the beautiful corona effect because that's right adjacent to the edge of the sun.
It's like just closing your eyes because it just blocks
just
everything.
Closing your eyes.
Just close your eyes at that point.
Exactly.
Wow.
Exactly.
Dude, that was great.
Okay.
Awesome. All right.
We got 1 minute left?
We got 1 minute left.
In this segment.
All right, you know what? So since we got 1 minute left, I'm going to give you a
What?
Okay, I got to do this because I got to ask you this question just because Andrew Hanks wants to know this, and I'm taking him seriously. Okay, will the sun melt the moon when it passes in front of it? I'm not too keen on cheese, and I don't fancy it raining down on me when I go shopping. I did not make that up. Andrew Hanks wants to know, will the sun melt the moon when it passes in front?
Okay, here's the thing. Given how many people think today that Earth is flat,
Right.
this is a high-level question. I'm impressed. We're getting better. At least it's thinking about the thermodynamics of the situation.
Absolutely. See, that's why I asked it, because I knew, and no matter what, Neil will find a way to answer someone's question. I don't care how stupid it is. Okay? And I know they say there's no such thing as stupid questions, but the people who say that are stupid. So.
All right, so Joe, I'll take this one. So here it is. So on the side of the moon that is facing the sun, it's a couple hundred degrees. It's very hot.
Very hot.
And it will melt almost anything you would eat. Like cheese would just be melted.
Right.
And so if the moon were made of cheese, half of it would just melt off the face.
Right.
Right. So, but now the moon is turning, and it takes a month to turn,
Right.
turns out, and because this matches the time it takes to go around the Earth. So on the side where the sun is not shining, it's like how cold does it get on the dark side, the unlit side of the moon?
About 250 below zero Fahrenheit.
Yeah, below zero. So that'll freeze it right back up.
Right.
Right. So if you want to live on the moon and not melt or freeze, you want to be in a rotisserie right at the boundary of light and
You
dark.
just want to find that line of light and dark and spin around.
Just rotate,
Right.
so the side of you that's baked is exchanged intermittently with the side that's frozen.
There you go.
And that way you stay one temperature.
And see, that's why I asked these questions, because we still learn something after all.
After all.
Okay?
You've been watching, possibly listening to Star Talk, and we've been recording this live at the Mashable World headquarters, the Mashable Universe headquarters in New York City. I've been your host, Neil deGrasse Tyson, Chuck Nice, Joe Rayo on video. I've been your personal astrophysicist, and until next time, I bid you to keep looking up.